Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Liberation Hour. This is your host, Comrade Felicity, coming at you pre-recorded from my apartment. And yes, folks, I am presently attempting to perfect my audio setup. As you can see, I have some nice headphones on, a brand new mic, and a podcast recorder. Yes, I have upgraded. This was my birthday present to myself, and so I am currently learning how to use this equipment. I'm also, usually the way I was doing my audio is I was recording it via a voice note on my laptop, my MacBook, and then I was transferring it over to my desktop and then just substituting that audio for the camera audio. Well, this is going to sound a lot better, hopefully. So if I can perfect this and actually get the darn thing to record, that would be great. Okay, so editing Felicity here. This recording that you're hearing right now is actually being recorded on my podcast recorder. When I was recording the initial segment, I forgot to format the SD card. So the audio that you're hearing in the radio segment is, or I guess the pre-recorded radio segment, is from my laptop like usual, but I have actually figured out how to use this technology now. I am no longer a caveman. So going forward, I have figured out how to use the technology. However, in this episode, if it sounds still a little funky, that is why. So anyway, back to the show. As you can probably hear, my cat Zuko is yelling in the background, crying, meowing, doing all the things. Zuko, honey, come here, baby. Come here. He's not gonna come. Anyway, it's fine. So, folks, welcome back to the show. This is the 30th episode. That's crazy. 30 episodes of the Liberation Hour. I could not be happier. I am so proud of, how far we have come as a community. I know we're only about 250 subscribers, but I am so incredibly excited to continue doing this show and growing the channel and growing awareness around anti-revisionist communism. And I am just anti-revision and Marxism-Leninism is what I should say. And so I am incredibly excited to do this episode with y'all. The pre-recorded topic for this the episode today is Christian nationalism with Comrade John from the Colorado Great Plains Division of the American Party of Labor. Comrade John has so much experience in this because he actually grew up in a Christian fundamentalist household, a Christian nationalist household. This is incredibly important in understanding just all of the intricacies and how this has affected people's lives and how we can actually effectively fight against it. Religion is not inherently a bad thing, but it is, as Marx said, an opiate of the masses, or for the masses. And so we must remain cognizant and aware of how religion affects our everyday lives and affects our movement through society and through the mode of production. And so I am incredibly excited to share that segment with you guys. As usual, the first 30 minutes will be posted on air if you're listening to this live, and the whole segment will be posted on my YouTube channel at Communist Bananas or Comrade Felicity. So folks, let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot of news to cover today. Last week, I just talked about the Epstein files because that was a huge deal. There was so much to cover there. There was so much to discuss, but I kind of want to branch out and actually discuss more worker-led movements because we really need to be reframing back to the working class and how the working class is being affected. And so my cat is right here. Yeah, hi, baby. Hi. So let's go ahead and get started. My first story of the night is the Alabama prisoners strike, the work strike. Now, I'm going to be reading from an article called the Alabama Political Reporter. I'm not too familiar with this source, so viewer discretion, a grain of salt, as usual. But I also am going to be covering just the general news media coverage of this because we really haven't seen a lot of mainstream coverage at all. Reason being, because mainstream media does not actually want to cover working strikes. They do not want to cover strikes at all because it makes them look bad. It makes them It makes the capitalist class look bad because a lot of what these strikers are demanding is the bare minimum to live, subsistence living essentially. And so reading from this article, it's called Alabama Prisoners Planning New Work Strike in 2026, although this is already happening, by Jacob Holmes, published December 5th, 2025. So this is not completely up to date, but this is kind of the baseline. The critically acclaimed HBO documentary, The Alabama Solution, released earlier this year, revealed the conditions in Alabama prisons while following the men who started a work strike movement in 2024. That same group announced Thursday that they are planning another work strike in the months ahead to keep a spotlight on the conditions inside the prisons now that the documentary has brought new awareness to it. Now that the documentary has brought new awareness to the issue. The Free Alabama movement said Thursday that they intend to begin a work strike across all Alabama prisons beginning February 8th, 2026, and this has started. Quote, "This nonviolent action comes in response to decades of unconstitutional sentencing practices, forced labor, and the ongoing humanitarian crisis throughout Alabama's prison system," FAM leaders said in a statement. Quote, "With the release of the documentary, quote, The Alabama Solution, state officials can no longer deny or ignore the overwhelming evidence that the Alabama prison system is in catastrophic failure and requires immediate sweeping reform. The documentary exposes systematic corruption, violence, and deliberate neglect that incarcerated people have endured for generations. The truth is no longer hidden behind prison walls. It is publicly available, undeniable, and morally urgent." Quote, "Despite federal investigations, DOJ findings, and repeated warnings, the state of Alabama has failed to enact meaningful change. Therefore, incarcerated people across the state are exercising their lawful right to peaceful protest through a statewide shutdown and work stoppage." The 2024 strike paralyzed Alabama's prisons, which rely heavily on the operation of incarcerated men to provide essential services. The documentary, alongside contemporary reports at the time, showed prisoners receiving increasingly meager meals. The administration claimed it was doing the best it could to work around the stoppage. Incarcerated individuals said it was a deliberate attempt to starve out the strike. The limited food and deteriorating conditions ultimately chipped away at the strike, and it ended without any of the group's demands being met. The group has once again issued demands to stop the upcoming work strike. The demands are listed below verbatim. 1. Repeal Alabama's Habitual Felony Offender Act. Abolish the outdated and excessively punitive enhancement statute that has produced life and virtual life sentences far beyond any rehabilitative purpose and out of step with modern standards of justice. 2. Make the presumptive sentencing guidelines retroactive. Apply current presumptive sentencing standards to all eligible prior convictions so that people sentenced under older, harsher laws can receive the same fair and consistent treatment as those sentenced today. 3. Make HJR 575 retroactive, quote, drive-by shooting statute reform. This would apply the legislative clarification of Alabama's drive-by shooting statute retroactively so that individuals who were improperly charged or enhanced under the statute can receive review and relief. 4. First-time offender / capital murder reform bill. Create revised sentencing options for first-time offenders and end juvenile life without parole by providing parole eligibility after 20 years, recognizing the capacity for growth, change, and rehabilitation. 5. Parole board reform and clear, objective criteria. Mandate transparent written standards, meaningful hearings, and review procedures that ensure fair, non-arbitrary parole decisions for every eligible incarcerated person. 6. Medical, furlough, and compassionate release expansion. Expand and enforce mechanisms for the release of elderly, terminally ill, severely disabled, and medically fragile individuals so they can receive appropriate care in the community instead of dying in prison. 7. Establish a statewide conviction review unit. Create an independent conviction review body with the authority and resources to investigate wrongful convictions, excessive sentences, and cases involving prosecutorial or judicial misconduct. 8. Abolish forced prison labor. End uncompensated and coerced prison labor by guaranteeing fair wages, voluntary participation, safe working conditions, and basic labor protections for incarcerated workers. 9. Strengthening Families Act, quote, or in parentheses, including conjugal visits. Implement policies that protect and strengthen family bonds, including conjugal and overnight family visits, expanded contact visitation, increased access to phone and video communication, and parenting and family support programs. So the thing about all of this is that it's completely reasonable. The American prison industrial complex knows no bounds, and I think that understanding this situation, what people in the Alabama prison system are going through, we also have to understand the underlying context of the prison system at large, which is, quite frankly, let's be totally real, back when the Civil War was being fought and won by the Union, what happened? Well, was slavery abolished? No, it was not. Slavery was made illegal except in the context of a prison, essentially saying that slavery was still legal in the prison system as a form of punishment. And now we can see how policies in the United States have created the conditions in which not only is slavery legal still, but the people who are being the most affected by incarceration in the United States and unfair and disproportionate amounts of incarceration is the Black community. And so it is basically a recreation of the slavery system, and what I think we could characterize as a form of neo-slavery, essentially saying that folks who, are descendant of enslaved African people who were unwillfully brought to this country, are now still being kept in the same carceral system, except not so overtly. There are still Black people who are able to walk free, of course, but we all know how racist, for example, policing is. Black folks are so much more likely to be stopped on the street and frisked. They are there is a much bigger likelihood of Black people being targeted by the system. And this is by design. This is because this system was built on a form of racist bigotry and relies on that layer of labor, which can be consistently exploited no matter what. Capitalism relies on this. There is always a bottom rung of working people who are divided through tactics employed by the bourgeois class, such as colonialism, racism, discrimination, things like that, to further divide the working class, and always have a labor pool to pull from who was always desperate enough to work. They can be used as scabs, they can be used as forced prison labor, they can be used as incredibly underpaid workers who are afraid to unionize. And this isn't just the Black community necessarily. This is, although this population is unfortunately, once again, disproportionately affected by these policies, this just goes for the working class in general. There has to be a layer of extremely poor people who are always going to say yes to the capitalists because they have no other choice. But we as the workers need to understand that we need to stand up and stand against. We need to stand up for all people within the working class, and we need to stand against the capitalist class in their attempts to further divide us through mechanisms such as racism and bigotry. And so, as it pertains to what's going on in the Alabama prison system, I think, first of all, solidarity to all of those who are striking right now. I think that it's incredibly telling that CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all of these giant media conglomerates have yet to actually talk about it because they realize that this could actually pick up steam. Because, anyone with half a brain will look at this situation and say, these are terrible working conditions, these people deserve better. A lot of the justification for this kind of stuff comes from the fact of, well, they're prisoners, they're rapists and murderers and child molesters and blah, 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 blah. But we know from statistical data that that's not true. Most of the people in the prison system are nonviolent offenders. And I think that and we have an extremely carceral system, which once again disproportionately affects Black and brown people, and keeps people within the prison system for years on end. Not at all trying to do rehabilitative justice, but just trying to exploit their labor and their so-called crimes in many cases in order to further exploit them as a worker. And so we must remain vigilant and understanding of this fact. And remain in solidarity with the Alabama prisoners who are currently on their working strike, and continue to spread awareness about their cause, because this is so incredibly important for all workers across the world, across the country, and across, of course, Alabama. So once again, solidarity with these striking workers, and we will check in with them next week as well. So moving on, this is going to be a little bit of a heavier topic. I would suggest, if you do not want to hear about mass death in Gaza, I would skip this segment. This is a piece from Al Jazeera. It was authored by Mohammed Mansour, 10th of February, 2026. Israel used weapons in Gaza that made thousands of Palestinians evaporate. Al Jazeera investigation reveals how U.S. supplied thermal and thermobaric munitions burning at 3,500 degrees Celsius have left no trace of nearly 3,000 Palestinians. At dawn on August 10th, 2024, Yasmin Mahani walked through the smoking ruins of Al-Tabeen School in Gaza City, searching for her son, Saad. She found her husband screaming, but of Saad there was no trace. Quote, "I went into the mosque and found myself stepping on flesh and blood," Mahani told Al Jazeera Arabic for an investigation that aired on Monday. She searched hospitals and morgues for days. Quote, "We found nothing of Saad, not even a body to bury. That was the hardest part." Mahani is one of the thousands of Palestinians whose loved ones have simply vanished during Israel's genocidal war on Gaza, which has killed more than 72,000 people. According to the Al Jazeera Arabic investigation, the rest of the story, civil defense teams in Gaza have documented 2,842 Palestinians who have, quote, evaporated since the war began in October 2023, leaving behind no remains other than blood spray or small fragments of flesh. Experts and witnesses attributed this phenomenon to Israel's systematic use of internationally prohibited thermal and thermobaric weapons, often referred to as vacuum or aerosol bombs, capable of generating temperatures exceeding 3,500 degrees Celsius. For those of us in America who use Freedom, the Freedom, this is, I can't even make a joke, this 6,332 degrees Fahrenheit. Anyway, grim forensic accounting. The figure of 2,842 is not an estimate, but the result of grim forensic accounting by Gaza's civil defense. Spokesperson Mahmoud Basal explained to Al Jazeera that teams use a, quote, method of elimination at strike sites. Quote, "We enter a targeted home and cross-reference the known number of occupants with the bodies recovered," Basal said. "If a family tells us there were 5 people inside, and we only recover 3 intact bodies, we treat the remaining 2 as evaporated. Only after an exhaustive search yields nothing but biological traces, blood spray on walls or small fragments like scalps," he added. The chemistry of erasure. The investigation detailed how specific chemical compounds in Israeli munitions turn human bodies into ash in seconds. Vasily Vetigrov, a Russian military expert, explained that thermobaric weapons do not just kill, they obliterate matter. Unlike conventional explosives, these weapons disperse a cloud of fuel that ignites to create an enormous fireball and a vacuum effect. Quote, "To prolong the burning time, powders of aluminum, magnesium, and titanium are added to the chemical mixture," he said. This raises the temperature of the explosion to between 2,500 and 3,000 degrees Celsius. That would be 4,532 degrees Fahrenheit to 5,432 degrees Fahrenheit. According to the investigation, the intense heat is often generated by tritonol, a mixture of TNT and aluminum powder used in United States-made bombs like the MK-84. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Munil Albersh, Director General of the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza, explained the biological impact of such extreme heat on the human body, which is composed of roughly 80% water. The boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius, Albersh said. When a body is exposed to energy exceeding 3,000 degrees combined with massive pressure and oxidation, the fluids boil instantly. The tissues vaporize and turn to ash. It is chemically inevitable. Okay, taking a break for a second from that. This is beyond unconscionable. Listen. I don't know how much more people need to hear about Israel's genocidal intent on Gaza for them to realize that they're doing a genocide. And I hope people realize that the use of weapons like this, the normalization of the use of weapons like this, is so incredibly dangerous. By allowing Israel to get away with this, to do things like this, we are essentially moving the line of what is acceptable and what is unacceptable. We're already well past what we should be, because a genocide has been happening for 3 years at this point, almost. But the fact that this is happening, the fact that they have used illegal weapons, by the way, that have literally evaporated human beings, and this is not being talked about, this is not international news, that there is not teams of countries teaming up to take down the Israeli state and take Benjamin Netanyahu to the ICC to be tried for crimes against humanity. And not just Benjamin Netanyahu, his entire government, everyone who was complicit, all of them. All of those who gave the orders, who were complicit in the orders, who carried out said orders, all of them. The fact that these people are still walking around as free people and are not currently being tried in the international courts for crimes against humanity is so incredibly telling about the world we live in. This is unsurprising considering that the United States has done similar things. It literally bombed North Korea to almost non-existence. Listen to the blowback season on that. It is very interesting and incredibly sad. I believe it's season 3. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that in the wake of American atrocities, it's not as though this is unprecedented, but considering that Israel has been so incredibly belligerent in this act, and not enough, and it doesn't matter if you recognize a Palestinian state, if you're not doing anything to protect said state from genocide, then you are just as complicit. I'm looking at you, Keir Starmer. Jesus Christ, okay. Oh, God. Anyway, so this is just so incredibly stomach turning, and I don't even know what to say in some cases, because the idea that this bomb doesn't necessarily just blow you up, but literally makes the fluids in your body boil to a point where you just evaporate. Imagine that. Imagine that. And you know why they're able to get away with it? because it's not happening to white people. Let's be so for real right now. And I'm not even sure if I can make that argument anymore, because ICE has killed 2 white people here in the United States, and operations have not ceased. So you can tell that, how things like whiteness are not necessarily entirely a shield to these kinds of things. But I mean, it's still incredibly telling that the fact that this is happening to Muslim people who live in the Middle East, who are indigenous to this land, and are being just obliterated by the state of Israel. The United States did the same thing to Native people here in, Turtle Island. And it's not like it hasn't happened before, but the fact that it is happening again, that we are allowing this to happen again, or that heads of state that currently command armies are allowing this to happen right now, shame. 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 For all those China glazes out there, if China was so principled, why aren't they sending in troops right now to forcibly stop the Israeli state? Oh yeah, because they have dealings with them. Oh yeah, because they actually don't care about shit like this. Right, yeah. Right. Yeah, no. If there was any principled state in this country that was able to actually stop them, it should be China, because they are, on their face, supposed to be a communist state. Obviously not, because they aren't intervening in a literal ethnic cleansing. They have the means to do it, and they're still not doing it. And this is not me trying to say that, you know what, yeah, I am going to say this. Countries do have a responsibility to intervene, because didn't we learn this during the Holocaust? Wasn't this supposed to be what we learned during the Holocaust? That if you don't intervene, that if you don't do something, that if you don't try to stop it, that the effects, that the final solution is some of the most horrific things that have ever occurred in human history? I mean, I don't feel like this is supposed to be an unpopular opinion. Come on, people. And this is why the dissolution of the Soviet Union was also incredibly terrible for the world. And Stalin was right. If the Soviet Union is dissolved, which it was, we have entered a period of the utmost reaction. And the fact that no one has militarily intervened as Israel continues and is still doing genocide, by the way. That whole ceasefire thing, that's not real. That's not actually happening. And Israel does not care about a ceasefire. Right now, we are headed into the next phase of the genocide, which is to just straight up bulldoze people. Just clear away the rubble and bulldoze people. It's prime real estate, baby. It's essentially telling the Palestinian people, oh, you're not going to leave? You're not going to leave your indigenous homeland? Okay, cool. We're just going to bulldoze you next. You thought bombing was bad? We're going to bulldoze you. That is what all of this is about. Yeah, no, so, you heard it here, folks. Israel is now just evaporating people, apparently. And no one's mad about it, apparently. Except for me. Well, no, there's probably a lot of other people, obviously, that are angry about this, but not the people who are in power, not the people who command literal armies who could stop this. This could all be stopped if one of the big three just either cut off weapons to Israel and all economic commerce and everything, or militarily intervened and forced them to stop. And the fact that that none of the countries who have the means to do so are doing so, speaks volumes of where we are, of the decay of capital, of how utterly morally bankrupt this system is. So That's about 30 minutes, folks. I'm going to go ahead and move us into the next segment on Christian nationalism. There's so much to talk about on this topic, and I am so incredibly excited to share this with you guys with my conversation with Comrade John. It's going to be, I think, really informative, and I hope to do more episodes with him on topics like this because he's such a wealth of knowledge. And yeah, it was a super fun episode to film. So yeah, everyone, I will see you next time, hopefully in the studio with a fully functional audio setup. Let's hope that this time it worked. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time.
Okay, welcome back to the Liberation Hour, everyone. This is episode 30, by the way. Congrats, yay to us. This is our 30th episode, and the discussion is on Christian nationalism and all that entails. This is not a limited discussion to just this episode. This is something that we can discuss over multiple episodes in many different contexts. But today we really want to tackle the um, Christian nationalism for what it is and what it's been doing. And today I'm joined by Comrade John. Welcome. If you want to give yourself an introduction, this is your first time on this show, I believe.
Yes, yes. It's first time on the show. One of my articles was read on a previous episode, but yeah, this is the first time that I've been on the show. I'm excited for it. I'm John. I'm a cadre member of the APL. I'm in Colorado with the Great Plains region. And yeah, really excited to talk about this subject.
Yeah, no, this is a really vast subject. There's a lot to discuss, but I think that it's still important to take a stab at it and really try to understand, what are the conditions that we're currently living in. And the conditions we're living in are somewhat controlled by Christian nationalists.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's not great, but alas. So I
Here we
think
are.
that the first thing to kind of touch on in this discussion is what is Christian nationalism? How do we define this as Marxists?
All right. Well, Christian nationalism is basically the belief that uh, let me just
Oh, you're cutting out a lot. I'm sorry.
it's God in country pastor. Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. When I'm like trying to switch tabs, sometimes it cuts out my audio and stuff like that. So I'll
Oh,
try to
I see.
stop doing it. Okay. So, yeah, Christian nationalism is basically just God and country are one. How uh, God gives dominion of the land and everything to his chosen people, which are the Christian nationalists, I should say. Yeah, it's just they're trying to build like this Christian utopia of just like one nation under God, and anything else is just like, no, this is sinful. We can't have this. This is not of God. This is how it needs to be. Strict, strict, strict. Yeah, it's very fascist adjacent, if you will. Just how just authoritative it is.
Right. Yeah, no, Christian nationalism is certainly, it's like it can certainly turn into a flavor of fascism, I feel, especially one example I feel is the late Charlie Kirk. May he rest in
Mm.
hell. Um, he was a huge Christian nationalist, and one kind of imagery that he used that I think is somewhat related actually to the Nazis is the lightning bolt. Um, and that's not necessarily tied to Christian nationalism, but I think that the fascist iconography and the beliefs of oh, sorry.
No, you're
um
good.
and the beliefs of you know, like God and country, as you talked about, you know, there he was always in the discussions around God, he was always you know, extremely fundamentalist on the topic. When you hear him talk about having talked about like his own beliefs and his, you know, extremely nationalist beliefs, um he's so incredibly um you know, he was so incredibly ignorant, but also a very good speaker and very good
Yeah,
at persuading people on, you know, kind of moving them away from what it actually was, um, into a more massaged narrative. Because when you actually say the quiet part out loud, there are a certain number of people who are going to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a second, guys. Not everybody, because this is a cult.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh, and with that, I mean, that comes with the purity culture that's all involved with it. That starts at a very young age. Like when they're in their early teens and like prepubescent stage, they're learning about like they do these things where it's they'll have like these little oh god, what would you I guess like these rituals where they would have like these they almost give themselves like daughters would give themselves to their fathers, just having these like ceremonies with their fathers saying that they're going to remain pure and like chaste until marriage. And it's in that way that like the daughter goes straight from like being the child to given to her husband and still like suppressed. So she doesn't ever like truly grow up. She just goes from like one father to another. And that's where a lot of the power in that comes in. You know, the suppression of like the female sex and just the young generations and stuff like that. Uh, like it starts off like really young. Like I remember some early memories just hearing, you know, it starts off simple like with Bible stories and stuff like that. Nah, just like Noah's Ark, like obey God or you know something bad's gonna happen. You don't really get like, taught about hell until like a little older. I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 years old. They start like bringing on the hell stories, and that's where a lot of it comes in. It's just a fear of hell. They actually think that hell is an actual place, that you know it's 100% real and you will go there if you do not follow the teachings of Jesus. And yeah, so a lot of it's just of the fear of hell.
Yeah, no, and that's like, I think, I don't know. I feel like a lot of these concepts are tools of suppression, as you were talking about. Um, you know, in the vein of how, like the suppression of women, you know, the belief in hell almost is a tool of suppression by the church itself to, quote, keep
Mm-hmm.
people in line of, you know, an arbitrary rule of you're going to go to hell if you do XYZ. Like you're going to go to hell if you have premarital sex, you know, which
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course, no, you're not, because premarital sex is not a sin because hell isn't real. But to a lot of these people, you know, it's very much, it seems this is a tool used as a form of control, in a multitude of ways to keep people isolated within the church. I think a lot of times of the Mormon church, actually, the LDS church, there's a guy I went to high school with who became Mormon. I saw it on Facebook. It was kind of weird. And like there's this concept of how, you know, how Mormons will go up to your door and you know, go door to door neighborhoods like it's a fucking traveling salesman pitch, and literally pitch Mormonism.
yeah. They're doing their mission work.
But yeah, but the thing is, it's not necessarily to convert people. There is the other concept of continuous rejections and also angry rejections, because not a lot of people, I think, love having Mormons, and especially young people. You're not seeing, I've never seen an old Mormon going door to door. I could be wrong.
No, that's not it.
I could be
No,
wrong.
the old ones are the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah. That's crazy. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's true. And they will it's those repeated rejections that as often I think it's a factor that pushes them further into the church. Because, as they go door to door and people continue to say, "Why are you coming around?" or "I hate your church," or blah 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 blah. I had a coworker when I was an intern one time that literally screamed, "Get the F out." Like this, like just there's a lot of and rightfully so, I feel, in some cases, because a lot of these people can be very invasive, and
yeah,
it's not everybody wants to be solicited like that. Completely understandable, but that mechanism of repeated rejection, and the facing of constant, sometimes angry and aggressive encounters, can kind of feed that reliance on the church for like a social support system.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it very much
It was
isolates
like
them.
that. It was like that growing up in the. We were more non-denominational, but like even it was still the same. Like we'd be in youth group, and the youth pastor would be like, "All right, guys, now when you go to the malls and you're talking to everybody, talking to your friends from school, they might make fun of you for the message you have to say, but just know that like in your heart, just going off on this spiel about like, yeah, these people are going to make fun of you because you're going to be talking about some crazy shit." And it's just like, don't worry, like it's all going to be fine. Like you're going to build treasure in heaven. And that's the other thing. That's where the whole Marx's opiate for the masses. It's it's a numbing agent. It's like your material conditions suck right now, but like just keep believing this, keep believing in this, and it'll be better. It'll be better when you're dead. And that's all it is. It's like
Yeah.
fuck the material reality. Oh, I don't. I'm sorry. I didn't know if
No,
I can
it's
cuss. Just screw the
I'll
material
I'll cut that
reality.
out.
Okay, sorry. Uh, and my dad has always told me this too. Like when I do nice things for people just to be nice, he's like, "Oh, you're building treasure in heaven." I'm like, "No,
Ugh.
I'm just being a decent human being." This person asked for my help, and instead of like, "Oh, what'll I get out of it?" It's just, "Yeah, sure, absolutely, no problem." Nope, building treasure in heaven. Like,
It's promoted as some kind of altruistic thing, but in fact, it's couldn't be more selfish. Um,
oh yeah, yeah.
it's like, you're building treasure in heaven, where it's like, oh, so do you do these nice things as a Christian because of your Christian faith and your belief in kindness, or do you do these things because you are trying to build some kind of social credit to get into heaven?
It is because they'll talk about like, oh, your mansion. They talk about mansions in heaven. They just talk about this huge, like, expansive, like, I don't know, resort world or something like that. I don't
Mhm.
know, just streets of gold and pearly gates, just like lavish and luxurious and just no sins. It just sounds pretty awful and like
Yeah,
blindingly bright. It's just I don't
right.
know.
And it's, um, I think that it's so when you're in it, when you're in the middle of that like ideology and that faith and that like that whole frenzy, that whole situation, um, I think that, it can sound like the overwhelmingness of like how people sometimes feel about God. Because I knew a lot of people in high school and stuff, especially who were, Christian.
Mhm.
And I remember in high school one time, this was not my best look, but I will tell this story because I think it's kind of funny now. I was around 16 or 17, and I had this friend who was really religious. Now, I was a little more brazen in my opinions on that kind of stuff, and I wasn't as considerate. And I do regret somewhat being kind of like this, but I remember just saying, man, fuck God. Like, I don't even really remember the context in which I said it. I just know that we were
Yeah.
at another girl's house, and this girl who I was friends with, went down into the basement and just started crying. And
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I remember, and she texted me about it. She was like, "This was so offensive," um, and was like, "She's like, I've been working on my relationship with God," and I just remember thinking, like, this is really fucking weird. But I also felt bad because I realized that like this was a really big deal to her. Like she was genuinely upset with me. And
Hmm.
I had never really faced something like that before. I had never faced a person and said something and like it was so strange for me to encounter that, especially because I grew up in a secular environment. Like my dad grew up Catholic, my mom grew up fundamentalist Christian. Both of them became atheists by the time they were together, and or at least more agnostic. And when they had me, they had agreed that they weren't really going to push any kind of religion on me, and same
Right.
with my siblings. So, to me, this was like such a strange concept for someone to be so incredibly offended by something that I found to be so benign.
Yeah.
And I felt bad at the time because it was my friend and I really didn't want to hurt her feelings, and so I apologized. But I think back on that time, being 16, 17, and saying that and her reaction, and it's really like nothing I had ever experienced. Like she was upset, like very mad. um and yeah, it really changed my outlook on just like how Christians view this concept, and 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 just how real this is for some people, like this concept of a relationship with God. This is something that I've heard a lot from a lot of different, Christians of all kind of, there's so many denominations, so many different kinds of them, but there's always this concept of your relationship with God as like an individual. Um, can you speak more on that?
Yeah, it's the relationship with God. It's you have him in your heart. It's another one of the purity things. Like you give yourself to God. Like in the Bible, I think the church is called the something about like the bride or something. Like we're the bride of Christ. Just a lot of just God is the one in charge. He's the our husband, if you would, our provider. It's really, yeah. And with the whole being upset, the fuck God and all that stuff. One of the phenomena I've noticed that's really weird. Like I graduated the same year the Columbine shooting happened, and
The Columbine
after
shooting?
that, yeah, yeah, it was like 1999, and like shortly after that, they started coming out with like, oh, the shooters were asking people, do you believe in God? And like, yes, I believe in God. And they would push this stuff on our kids instead of like gun control. They would push like, if somebody asked you if you believe in Jesus, don't be afraid to say yes, even if you know it's going to be your last day on this earth. Just know Jesus is going to be there waiting for you with open arms and saying, bless you, my child, for you have done well in my eyes.
Crazy.
And yeah, wow, it's just my jaw drops like every time I heard that. Like, I'm sorry, but like, if somebody's holding a gun to my kid's head and you're like, do you love God? If you answer yes, I'm shooting you. You're like, you better say no.
Yeah, just say no. Like, okay.
Yeah, like, he's gonna forgive you for lying. Like,
Yeah, I
it's kind
promise.
of what he does.
That's his whole shtick, and that's
Yeah,
kind of
he'll forgive you.
Yeah, he'll forgive you. And like here's the thing. This is not me being against people having their own individual religion and believing their own thing. You know, like I'm a Marxist. I don't believe in that. And if you want to be part
Yeah.
of the American Party of Labor or really probably any other communist party, you're going to have to be an atheist. That is
Yeah,
just
pretty
what it
much.
is
Yeah.
to be a communist. But I also don't believe in the suppression of individuals to practice their religion. I believe in the suppression of religious institutions
Yeah.
because they are agents of capital. But for people who want to practice their own religion, I'm not against that. I'm not against, for example, Bible reading groups of neighbors together who do believe in these things. That's fine. Concepts of, communities coming together to practice, their own religious beliefs. That's totally fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. But
No.
it becomes when people begin to say, well, if you don't believe in my God, then we have a problem because this is how society should be ordered. And it's like, no, because we can see the tangible reality of what happens when Christian nationalists run a country. It's not a good thing.
Hmm.
This is because it is an obviously it's an idealist ideology because it literally believes in an idea that cannot be proven with science. There's no way you can prove that God is real.
No.
Just none. And so you have these insane people who have gone out of their way to twist and turn all of the possible teachings of Jesus um into like a malformed like gross version of what it used to be for individuals, and is now used as like in some cases a money laundering institution,
Yeah.
or
The
an
spiritual
institution,
driving force of imperialism.
a spiritual driving force of imperialism. That's a great way to put it. And so do you want to, I think, expand more on that concept, because that's something we should really delve into.
Yes. Okay. So, uh, there's the concept of well, uh, Christian Zionism. And Christian Zionism it believes that the end of times is starting. It started when modern day Israel was formed in 1948, and uh, they need. It's this is a weird thing. Like I could do a whole other episode just on this. So, see if I have any notes pulled up on this without having to. Oh, man, I got a whole other. Okay, so yeah, Christian Zionism. So they're needing the Jews to return to Israel. So that's the start of the end times right there. So they're needing to build another temple, which got destroyed or something. But basically, we need to support Israel in whatever they do. There's a thing in Genesis about like uh, bless unto Israel and stuff like that, and you will be blessed. If you curse Israel, you will be cursed. So they've kind of taken that as foreign policy. Uh, yeah, we have to back Israel no matter what. If we don't, it's an affront to God, and He will strike us down as sinners. John Hagee, one of the pastors who's really big into this, he started Kufi, which is Christians United for Israel, and yeah, he just goes on these crazy rants about how God loves Israel more than anybody in America and stuff like that. Just not being very patriotic, just talking down about the American people and just like talking, just praising Israelis. And the crowd's just eating it up. They're just praying, yeah, we do suck, actually. Yeah, Israel. Yeah, they're better than we are. And just the level of mind control and just gaslighting is just astronomical with these people.
Yeah, and some of the biggest Zionists are not even Jewish. It is actually Christian fundamentalists, as you just said.
Oh yeah, yeah.
People who genuinely believe that if you just return all the Jews, all of them, to this one little place, that it'll trigger the rapture and that we can, all ascend to heaven and like the 300 Jewish people that will be spared.
Oh
Like,
no, wait, it's the two thirds of all Jews are going to be massacred. So
whoa,
that's it. Then the third surviving ones are going to be like, oh wait, yeah,
a little
uh,
anti-Semitic, a little
yeah, oh,
anti-Semitic.
it's very anti-Semitic. Yes, the Christian Zionism is very anti-Semitic at the end of the day.
Yes.
Uh, they're like, oh, we're sorry we killed you, Jesus. You really are the Messiah. We're sorry, and then they're saved, and
Right.
everybody, yes, and then everybody goes to heaven. Yay, and Satan gets cast down in the lake of fire for 1,000 years. And yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's such a strange concept because again, I'm not against people practicing their individual religion, but the concept of needing an entire ethnic group of people who is very diverse, by the way, to all go to one
Mhm.
geolocation on Earth to trigger the rapture. I'm sorry, you're never doing that. Like,
No,
that's
no,
never happening. If that is real, that's never gonna happen.
no. The
Um,
concept of the rapture didn't start until like 1830s. So yeah, it's a fairly new concept.
in the history of
Yeah.
religion, absolutely, especially the Abrahamic religions. It's such a
Mm-hmm.
strange concept, but a newer one nonetheless. And I think that once again, it still fuels this like um, this concept of control, essentially trying to convince people of an event that is never going to happen, but is easily used to easily manipulate people this um, into this one way of thinking. And it's
Oh
often
yeah,
used as a
yeah.
fear tactic, like be afraid of the immigrant, be afraid of, in some cases back in like the 20th century and still now today, but a little less so, be afraid of the Jews. Henry Ford, as I've talked about on the show many a time, was a
Mm-hmm.
huge anti-Semite.
So,
Anti-Semitism was a lot more common in the United States than I think people realize, and still is, but in a
oh,
way.
they wouldn't. I mean, they wouldn't even accept them when they were getting, genocided in Germany. And like,
Mhm.
no, we can't. We're not going to take any of the Jews. It's crazy. Like, what are we doing?
Are
We're
you
not doing
guys
that. No.
crazy? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and that concept of and now it feels like there's like this huge revisionist history going on um about the way America treated Jewish people in the past. Um, and like there's this like I something I hear a lot is, and not to go off on this tangent, but like, Joseph Stalin and Lenin, hated Jewish people. They hated the Jews, which I mean, I
Yeah.
did a whole episode on this with Comrade Misha. But on the flip side of that, America, has always been a safe haven, a supporter of Jews, as if, and just, or just completely ignoring our history with anti-Semitism and just acting like it doesn't exist and not even trying to like face it,
I
you know?
remember those old cartoons before they got changed up. I remember what the wolf looked like.
So, speak it, speak it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that it is incredibly important to realize just how anti-Semitic these Christian nationalists are, and often white Christian nationalists. And the concept
Mm-hmm.
that the what we're when we're bringing in whiteness here, I do want to explain whiteness for a second to my listeners. Whiteness is the concept of who who isn't considered white. It's not necessarily who is, but who isn't. It's an exclusionary process in the United States of who gets, who is accepted by, um, white supremacy versus who is suppressed by white supremacy. Black people are obviously at the opposite end of the spectrum of accepted. They are completely unaccepted. You know, um, in America, unfortunately, this is how America, um, the like the
We're in a
concept.
moral decline.
Yep. And one of the first out groups to always, 100% of the time get targeted is the Black community.
Oh,
When
100%.
suppression is becoming more, when the conditions, when the contradictions are sharpening, the one of the big indicators usually is the violent suppression of the Black community and Black people. Um, and it's one of the, because what the Black community has obviously endured the likes of the slave trade back when that was happening a few hundred years ago, and didn't end until relatively recently in the grand scheme of things. Not a great look, America. um
Carceral slave trade going on.
yeah, no, and these things still do very much exist. None of this ever really went away. Slavery never went away. It just mutated into something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And this could be a whole separate episode, but what I'm trying to get at here is the concept of whiteness. One of the big questions in America has always been, and as I've talked about this before recently, and is now, are Jewish people white? Do you consider Jews white people? Well, if you're a Klansman, like a real Klansman, no, Jewish people are not white.
No, they're Middle Eastern. No, absolutely not. Yep.
But due to this news, due to the relatively new concept of Zionism, a lot of that anti-Semitism is masked through the support of Israel. And so it's a lot more, it goes a lot more unnoticed how white Christian nationalists, white supremacist Christian nationalists, how they view Jewish people. And that's the reason I'm bringing this up, the reason I think it's so important, is because the race component of all of this is a key, like, bedrock, part of the key bedrock and foundation of Christian nationalism.
Well,
Now
you
in
got all of them
America.
with the fascination with the Crusades. They want to
Yes.
go do another Crusades to save the Holy Land. It's just like, whatever, dude.
Yeah, they really like, and a lot of, I've never met more violent people than white Christian nationalists. You know,
Yeah, absolutely not.
these people, they always want to say Jesus loves you, blah 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 blah. But these people are also the people who are, some of them, joining ICE. Others of
Yeah,
them
yeah.
are shooting up churches, Black churches, Mormon churches even. You know, Interestingly, I actually learned this from a friend of mine who's an ex-Mormon. Um, Mormons were known to be kind of bullied and oppressed by Christians. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not, this is not me trying to defend the Mormon church. It's more of just, the interreligious, like, infighting within, like, the institutions of religion. One of those religions that has been more, like, I guess, kind of isolated is Mormonism.
Yeah, well, they think it's a cult as well. Well, the
It
thing with that,
is, but
the interreligion stuff, like, it goes deep because my mom, she grew up Catholic, and my dad grew up Southern Baptist, or my step grandmother and stuff like that. Well, on their wedding day, my grandmother goes up to my dad and she's, well, she's going to hell whenever she dies because she's Catholic. And it's just like, well, welcome to the family.
well, okay.
Yeah.
What do I say to that? Like,
Oh, they hated each other all until my mom had my sister, and then, like, I guess things
I guess
kind
things
of cooled off
change.
until she died.
Yeah, right.
Oh God, yeah. She used to. My grandmother would talk so much shit on my mom and just take us to church hard RN bombs, just like left and right, just East Texas white trash Southern Baptist woman. Yeah,
Is
it
your
was
mom
great.
is your mom Black?
No, no, no.
But she would just
She's
use the N-word.
she. No, my mom. It was my grandmother that would do that. My step grandmother that would do that.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking just in general. Okay, I'm like, wait, what?
No, she
Like,
was just a mean old racist lady who, but went to church every Sunday, sang in the choir,
yep,
you know,
no, and some of them are,
with pastors' luncheons. Yeah.
yeah, no, and that's kind of the, like I've said this before on the show, there's no hate like Christian love, like
Mm-hmm.
they love to. I remember I was actually at, so I was protesting at a, back when Charlie Kirk once again was still alive. He came to my campus last April, so almost a year ago. And he had a pretty big turnout, unfortunately, which I was not happy about. I don't know how many of those people were actually there to listen to Charlie and how many of them were there to troll him. Not enough, of course, but still. And it's interesting. I remember you were a pretty small crowd, and we're kind of weirdly encircled by all of these Trump supporters and these Kirk supporters, and there's a guy yelling at us, just screaming, Jesus loves you, Jesus loves you, but also like being such a dick and like, going after people and bullying them and, like just spewing so much hatred. And the fact that they can hold these two truths at once is so strange.
It is. It's just the weirdest dichotomy ever. That's what I. There's a difference between Christians and being Christ-like. Christians is what you see the state powered control, like violent. You know, we're gonna kill everything that doesn't believe like we do, and then you have somebody who wants to live like Christ. This is the teachings he taught. Be kind. Feed the hungry. Look after the sick. Uh, Love yourself and love thy neighbors. These are the things that I teach. Blah blah blah. It's just I don't get the disconnect where they don't get that. I have these
Yeah.
conversations with my dad, and he's like, "Yeah, you love your neighbors and stuff." And it's like, well, why don't you get that? Y'all don't understand this. What do you mean? It's like, all right. My sister-in-law is trans. She started, transitioning a few years ago and stuff like that. And so I'm like, well, do you love Heather? She's like, oh, not really, just sin. And that was another concept. Love the sinner, hate the sin. And like, you can't really do that because that you
Still
can't
goes against.
distinguish a sin from the person. It's the person.
Yeah.
It's kind of unconditional. You take it or leave it. I don't know. And then there's you learn all these stuff and like early on too. Because you're sequestered with hang out with all your Christian friends. The outside world's a scary place. Listen to this kind of music, watch these kind of movies. Everything secular is demonic influence and stuff like that. And that's just another thing. It's just an introduction to the end times and hell and stuff like that. That goes along with scare tactics and stuff like that. You have these concepts. All right, Halloween. Halloween was fun. Halloween, we had Hell House. I don't know if you ever heard of that Hell House, but yeah, Hell
I have
House was
not.
huge down south. All right, so the Hell Houses were basically like the haunted house, little attractions and stuff like that. But instead of like Jason and Michael Myers or some demon, you watch an abortion happen. You
What?
watch some kid, yeah, you watch some kid blow their brains out in the locker room because he got pissed off at his girlfriend. Just
Oh,
stuff like that. Weird shit, like real life horrors is what they call it. So this demon like takes the group in, and like you see all these little incidents of like depression stuff. Yeah, the kid like, oh my god, nobody loves me, and the demon's like, your girlfriend left you. My girlfriend left me. You'll never. And he's just talking like bearing down on this poor kid, and he's like, just do it, do it. And the kid shoots himself, and the crowd watches the kid die and all that. And then, all right, let's go. I'll see him later. And just take him to the abortion clinic. The guy takes out a shop vac and like starts making the suction noises, and the girl's like freaking out. Oh my god, it hurts! You lied to me. And the doctor's like, oh, stop, and pulls out this like pan of jelly and like a baby doll arm and stuff, and like,
insane. That's insane.
Yeah. And you just go through these rooms, and then finally, like, I worked at the graveyard. I had fun doing the graveyard. I got to shove people in a coffin and lock it and stuff like that, and like play with rats all day. It was fun. And so you get put in the coffins at the end, and you hear, you have just died, and the wages of sin is death, and blah, 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 this little spiel. The doors open into hell. And then there's Satan and all the demons and stuff like that. And you get led through hell. And then at the very end, there's Jesus on the cross. And it's like, oh, you don't have to go to hell, blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, people leave. A lot of the teens and stuff that go through there are just in tears, just like, because they've had an abortion. They knew a friend that killed themselves. They can relate to these topics more than like a scary monster chasing after you. And that's how they get, like, the old like preachers' wives and stuff like that are waiting for them at the very end to proselytize. To be like, oh, do you need Jesus to come into your heart and stuff? And then just like swarm these people, like after just these crying teenage people just get swarmed right after. Yes, okay, yes, I want Jesus in my heart, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it's just a scare tactic. Just up to the millionth degree with that thing.
That's some of the most unhinged shit I have ever heard.
Uh-huh.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's insane. That's insane. I have never heard of something so incredibly, like, wow is all I have for that. And
there's YouTube videos you can watch. Yeah, just look up like hell houses and stuff like that.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna let the viewers do that. I've had damn, that's crazy. But and that's, you know, that concept of going through a hell house, but it's just like I don't know, the abortion stuff is crazy because, like, that's not even. No, it reminds me of, okay, have you seen the movie what's it called? Citizen Ruth with
No, I have not seen that one.
Okay. It's a really good movie, and it's really funny. And it's basically about, it stars, what's her name? She plays someone's gonna say it in the comments, and I'm gonna feel stupid because I should know her name. But Laura Dern.
Okay.
Basically she plays like this like homeless, basically like drug addict who also is like a prostitute. And she doesn't do like regular drugs. She huffs spray paint or something along those lines. I forget exactly what it is. But basically she ends up pregnant, and this isn't like her first time. Through one of her one of her endeavors being a prostitute, unfortunately. And you can kind of see that violence happen at the beginning of the movie. The movie is meant to be a little more ironic than anything, but I still think that it touches on some really important points. And basically, the movie goes through, these two camps that are trying to convince her to either have an abortion or to keep the baby. But the Christians in this movie I love the way that they're portrayed and the way that they're written, because it is genuinely so on the nose. And then Burt Reynolds comes in, and that's its own thing. Like that, he was so good in this movie. He was so good. I highly recommend anyone that can watch Citizen Ruth right after this, please go watch it. It's so funny.
I have to watch it. I like Laura Dern in.
Oh my God, you will get a kick out of it, especially if you grew up Christian, like in that sect. Oh my God, it's so funny. But it touches on a lot of concepts of like, how priests are weird. And, we could even get into this about how, Catholic priests, I'm not sure Christian, but definitely like the Catholic priests have, a long record of child molestation.
Yeah, there's the youth pastors have get a little slimy behind closed doors with some of the yeah.
And it's unfortunate that, I talked a lot about Jeffrey Epstein recently, but this is also another avenue for essentially pedophiles to get close to kids, and then take advantage of them because they're in an environment that is ripe to allow that behavior. No
Yeah.
one's really being held to any account. There's no actual accountability happening within the church. There's obviously a huge power imbalance and power hierarchy that is very patriarchal and is ripe to just for abuse like that.
Absolutely. Uh it all goes with it's not even about like with Trump too. It's not about like a sexual gratification or anything like that. It's all power. It's all authority. It's establishing dominance over a weaker person, and that's Christian nationalism, pretty much establishing your dominance over the weaker population. You know, the
Yeah,
population that doesn't conform to what you envision the country should be.
no, exactly. And I think that, you can see this, especially. So I used to work in the nonprofit industry, and I'm going to call it industry because it very much is, around
Mm.
homelessness and in Denver, Colorado, where I used to go to community college. Um, and have you heard of Catholic Charities?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Catholic Charities is one of the bigger um, providers of home of services for homeless people in Denver. They have a brick and mortar location and smack dab in the middle of the city, that has that was built to be a homeless shelter.
yeah.
I think it was one of the first in the city that was actually built to be a homeless shelter. And it's huge. It's like a big building. Um, but the thing about Catholic Charities and other charity organizations like this, once again, solidarity, not charity, um, is they prey on people who are in these situations to basically bring them in and then say, okay, we'll give you services, but you have to go to one mass a week, or you have to participate in this religious XYZ, you know, once a week or once every few days or blah, 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 blah. And in the exchange, you get housing, you get a counselor, all of these things. Um, it's incredibly predatory because it is trying to get people who are already in a really bad situation as it is, um, and indoctrinate them into this ideology, and not really even help them out of the situations they're in, you know.
No, yeah, that all ties in with the mission work as well. We went to Mexico when I was like 12 years old, and like painted a church or something, like help build a church or anything. Did nothing at all to like help these people, materially. We just like built a church. I tromped through mud and like handed out tracts to come to the service and stuff like that. Yeah, uh,
It's colonial type thing, like back in the Columbus days and stuff like that with exploration, like subjugation of the up of an indigenous people. You're subjugating these poor homeless individuals now under your control and authority. Like you have to do this or you're tossed out of the street. It's just saying like you either convert or you die.
Yeah, no, and that's like it's the new version of what they, as you said, did to Native people and everything, of either you convert or you don't breathe anymore.
Yeah, suffer the consequences.
Suffer the consequences. And it's, obviously incredibly sad, but it is the way that the church functions. I think about how the church used to, way back, obviously, hundreds of years ago, charge people, say that you could buy your way into heaven, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
What was it again? Remind me.
Well, there's tithing. I know that that's like you have to give 10%, the first 10%, like tax, pre-tax to the church. That's God's money that belongs to God. I don't know. I never really, we didn't do the concept of buying your way into heaven. All I know is I watched my mom like write so many checks when we had like no food or anything to eat, and she's like writing $100 check to this guest pastor that's like, hey, blah blah blah, I need money. I'm like, shit, we need money too, mom. Like, stop doing this, like, please. Like, oh, well, we're sowing seed. That's what we're sowing seeds so that our harvest will be plentiful.
I don't like that very much.
Yeah, and that's another. It's metaphysical instead of like materialistic. They're like, oh, we bought this house, we sowed seed and bought this house. We're like, no, we had like a rich uncle that gave us the money for the down payment, and then you got this house like dirt ass cheap because like the people that used to live here did like weird satanic ritual shit, and like nobody liked it, so we got the house cheap, and it's probably possessed. She used to go and like put anointing oil, like put crosses with olive oil all in our bedrooms, stuff on our walls and stuff. She's like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just putting a hedge of protection. We'd have to put on the full armor of God before school. And that's another thing. Getting you ready for battle at an early age, like a war mentality.
Me when I forget my full armor
The
of
full
God
armor of God.
at home.
Yeah.
No.
We'd have to put on our full armor of God. And when I was like 4 years old, they had the little toy set, your little helmet of salvation, your sword of the spirit, and like breastplate of righteousness. And you dressed up, it was like a little Roman soldier get up. And yeah, it had little crosses on them and stuff like that. We would sing like, I don't know if you remember the song, God, The Lord's Army. I may never like march in a battlefield, shoot, or like fly over the infantry, stuff like it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm in the Lord's army. They're preparing these kids for a future war, for Armageddon, for spiritual warfare against the powers and principalities of the darkness.
Or for the war on terror.
Yeah.
And I think
that's where
this ties very nicely into our discussion on capital in this framework, where we've built the understanding of what Christian nationalism is. How is it applied? And it is applied by the forces of capital and by the bourgeois class to control working people into doing things like fighting their. Sorry, my cat. Queenie, get down. Sorry. She knows better. She knows I'm recording right now, and she's doing it anyway. Anyway, it's preparing people. You have this like ideological war of, we need to convert people. You need to, bring people into the kingdom of God. Blah 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 blah. And it is used as a weapon to indoctrinate people basically, and brainwash them into accepting American imperialism, essentially saying, this is God's war. This is
Bush before Iraq.
Yeah, invoking those. I mean, they're not sleeper cells, but basically invoking that concept of God and country. I need to protect my country, my homeland, my Deutschland.
Onward, Christian soldiers.
Yes, and it's very insidious because it is, as we talked about, used by people in power to basically uh, convince people that our wars of our imperialist wars are a good thing, actually, because we're spreading good Christian faith and the American
It was
petrodollar.
biblically mandated.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. It was biblically mandated. It reminds me of, do you remember? So I don't know. You remember during 2020 when there was like everybody kind of went crazy in quarantine, and there was this TikTok that this girl did where she was like this blonde girl. It's kind of infamous now. It's like an iconic TikTok, but basically it's like this blonde girl who was like a Trump supporter, and like she was doing this whole acting out situation behind like a Christian song about how she wouldn't get the COVID vaccine. And then the state apparently beat the shit out of her and she died. And then she came into the kingdom of heaven and God was like, "You did good, my child." And like,
Oh yeah, I
yes,
remember that. Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
completely unironic. This was real. This girl filmed, edited, and posted that and thought, "I ate that up. I ate
They
that
do
up."
they do the same shit with school shootings. About what I was telling you earlier about like if somebody comes and talks to you about if you believe in Jesus, they do that same shit. I've seen TikToks like that as well. It's like crazy out there. What the hell?
Yeah, no, and it's very like it was so weird, and like when you're on the outside of that and you're not, and this here's the thing. I don't exactly remember where this TikTok, like, I just remember seeing it very, very secondhand. But I do remember thinking, where did this come from? Who is this for? And I think honestly that TikTok wasn't really ever supposed to make it out of her bubble of like influence, but it somehow,
Yeah.
like these things sometimes do, hit mainstream because it's so ridiculously hilarious and stupid. And everyone started clowning on her, of course, because what? Like the state is there is okay. There is nothing more that the state wanted to do than open the markets back up and risk people's lives for the dollar.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah.
no one can, like, if the Biden administration could have ignored people getting the vaccine and just opened everything back up without having to, try to push people to get vaccinated, which honestly they didn't really even do that well anyway. Um, they wouldn't have cared. They did not care. And the Biden administration is one of the huge reasons, of course, why there were so many unnecessary deaths from COVID, because they didn't
Well,
actually, neither
yeah,
Trump nor Biden wanted to do anything about COVID, but that's a different episode.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
But
I wasn't around my folks whenever COVID hit, so yeah, I didn't get to witness all that calamity
oh,
going
people
on
went
again.
crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a very radicalizing element for a lot of people. I know it was, as a little personal anecdote, actually. I have an aunt, and she, I think, became incredibly radicalized during the pandemic. She is still, to this day, she is like a Christian fundamentalist. She's part of like this Greek Orthodox church. I don't know. I don't know. And
Nice.
I'm not asking any questions about it because I really don't want to know. But she and she converted, and they're like really, really, really Christian now, and it's very conservative, even more conservative than my grandma, who used to be Christian fundamentalist and now she isn't. But anyway, um
That's
mhm.
oh sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
That's another thing that I find extremely weird is the ones that are the most radical and the most like extreme are the ones that are new into it. They're the new converts.
Right.
You
And
know,
it's like how JD Vance is a Catholic convert, which is insane.
yeah, yeah. Or I don't. Do you remember the movie The Little Rascals from like the early '90s?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I wasn't
All
born
right.
yet,
Well,
but
oh yeah, yeah. But the character that plays Alfalfa, Bug Hall's the guy's name. Unhinged, like crazy Catholic, like oh god, like he's one of them. I'm gonna go invade the Holy Land for in the name of the Lord and stuff like that. Yeah,
just his Instagram just unhinged. Like, I have daughters to like clean and blah blah blah. Just like,
Ew. No, you
yeah,
don't.
I don't.
You don't have to do that, actually.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. He just fell off the deep end. Like Child Star, just
Oh,
that
yeah.
Child Star fell like Lucifer from heaven. Yeah,
And these things do happen, and it's very unfortunate, and that's,
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
and that's the thing is my aunt to this day believes and like is like convinced that Donald Trump is going to arrest Anthony Fauci,
Hmm.
which I thought we were moved past him by this point. Like, yeah, he's a capitalist. He made money off of, working for drug companies. But like that's the thing that a lot of these people are missing is what they're the great evil that they're all so afraid of and upset by and actually suffering from isn't Satan, it's capitalism. It's
Oh yeah.
literally capital. Like Anthony Fauci, yeah, bad guy. I'm not going to sit here and defend Fauci. Like I'm not doing that. But I'm also, not going to sit here and be like, and it's because he's satanic. No, it's because he's a
They're all the
capitalist.
same demons. They're all demons.
Yeah, there are demons. But for real, like,
Agents of capitalism.
yeah, he's literally just an agent of capital. Like, and I mean, like, this is what happens when you privatize your healthcare system, and like have completely neoliberalize your whole economy.
Yeah.
Like this is just the outcome, but these people are interpreting those conditions as this is, an agent of Satan
End
or something.
times. Yeah.
The end times, which is so just that's incredible. Like you got to do a lot of backflips to get there. Which I mean, they're already working real hard as it is with these beliefs, but she is ride or die for the arrest of Fauci at some point. It's gonna happen, I promise. And it makes me think about like that whole craze that she's in about um these like once again these people who are not necessarily like she's not ever acknowledging the capital part. In fact, she is heavily invested in the concept of capitalism being the freedom element, like the freeing element of society. She's talked to me about this before. It's incredibly contradictory with her beliefs, her actual belief system around God and loving thy neighbor and everything, because capitalism obviously does not actually promote that. But she's a huge believer in the concept of voting with your dollar.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like listening to her read off of a script when she's talking about like that and about these concepts. And ironically, well, I guess not ironically, just interestingly enough, she homeschools her kids. No surprise there. Abolish homeschooling, because I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but the kids who are raised in that environment, unfortunately,
They're
don't stand a
weird.
chance.
No, they don't. They're gonna get eaten alive out there.
Yeah, and one of the books that they read is Animal Farm.
Uh,
Ah,
so they're already getting yeah.
brainwashed to the max.
Uh,
Stalin is the pig, apparently. I don't know.
I never read it.
I've not
think
read
I've
it.
watched like some of the cartoons. I don't know. I'm not an Orwell fan.
I don't think any real communist is an Orwell fan.
Yeah.
He's a CIA asset, or he was. But I mean, yeah, I think that listening to my own extremely religious family members, it can be hard to keep a straight face sometimes when you listen to them because they do sound genuinely fucking crazy.
Oh yeah,
Like,
especially how like Trump's gonna like save this country. He was sent by God. God, that whole prophetic. That was a prophecy. Trump was prophesied back in 2007 by a South African prophet named Ken Clement. He's
okay,
preached at my, not really preached, but like he's prophesied at my old church back in Texas, like way back in the day. So yeah, I'm very familiar with Ken Clement. But back in like 2007, he was preaching a message and was saying that like a great leader is going to come up and like
bring this nation to God, but he will not be a praying president. He will not come in as a praying president. He'll have 2 terms, and there was something else. God will make Trump a trumpet, and somehow like everybody got that with like Trump, and so by the time uh, Trump's first term, Kim died like in 2016, so he died like 6 months after Trump got into office. So like a bunch of the prophecies were coming true, except for the 2-term president. So 2021 happens. He didn't win the presidency. Everybody's freaking out, saying this isn't how the 2-term. He needs to be a 2-term president, and that's where like the J6 stuff starts coming into play. They needed to keep this prophecy going, and when like the votes were coming in and stuff like that, and like people were getting disparaged and like down, they're like, no, 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 this is still happening. This is still happening. And now that like he's got this 2nd term, they're like, all right, that's the next step.
Prophecy's back on, guys.
Yeah, prophecy's back on. They didn't say 2 consecutive terms. He's just going to be a 2-term president. So prophecy's back on, guys. Yep. And just the wall now thing. There was another prophecy about like Cyrus. Cyrus was a Persian emperor or something like that way back in the day, and he like saved a bunch of, or like did something about, I don't know, he was an unexpected savior of Christianity or something like that. And so they're thinking that Trump, like they prophesy, he's the new Cyrus. He's the new Cyrus. He's going to save Christianity and stuff like that. This man is like a lump of shit tied into imperialism and sin, and I don't give a damn what you say. He is not of God at all. Like, when I heard my aunt say that my mom told her that, like, yeah, God brought Trump to, blah, blah, blah. That's when I was like, no, I can't believe she would say something like that. I thought better of my mother.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't been around in a minute.
I get it. And I think that, it's so like, like this concept of Trump is like sent by God. I've listened to a lot of, commentary on media that has been produced around that idea. Like there's this whole movie. I forget what it's called exactly, but it's based on a true story apparently. And it's about a firefighter who's never been like actually to fight a fire in like his whole career. And then right before he's about to retire, he gets a call about a fire and has to go and deal with it apparently. And it's so traumatic that he leaves the job without actually retiring, so he gets no retirement benefits.
Was it Fireproof?
No. What is it called?
Okay.
Because I remember Chapo did a whole thing on it, and it was really funny. I listened to it. And let me try to look it up.
I don't know many fire department movies. I know like Backdraft.
Yeah, firefighter. Let me just see if this like the Trump prophecy is what it's called. The Trump.
Oh God, yeah. He like has the traumatic shit. Yeah, he ends up having like I vaguely remember some ridiculous plot line that had some.
Yeah, no, and
it's
that
all coming back to me now.
Yeah, and it's insane. It's genuinely like it's crazy, but dear listener, it's incredibly insightful into the mind of the white Christian nationalists, and just how delusional they can get with these concepts and beliefs that they have.
Watch the Left Behind series with Kirk Cameron.
What is that about?
Oh, that's the series about like the rapture and tribulation and everybody getting left behind and stuff like that. It's left behind. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's the fear of hell and the fear of the rapture. It's all God didn't give us a spirit of fear. That's it says that in the Bible. I heard this all my life. God did not give us a spirit of fear. But man, we are sure scared of freaking everything.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing is it's once again it's a controlling, extremely controlling cultish organization and belief system around that centralizes power to an institution which does not actually, maybe at one time it did serve like a common good, right? Maybe
Yeah.
at one time before it, got mutated and just
Way back with
completely.
the Niceans or something like that.
Yeah, I guess. I'm no like religious, like this is I'm not like some kind of expert. I just like talking about these concepts, but
My
like,
brother's the
yeah. And my boyfriend was studied religion in college, so like this is more his area of expertise. But regardless of that, this media can be so incredibly telling about what these people actually think and their delusions. And I don't know, I think that when I'm when I listened, especially, oh, this is something that we should talk about actually, talk radio. And if you've ever been on a road trip driving through, let's just say, the middle of nowhere, Kansas. I have made that drive many a time going from Denver to Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you turn on the radio, any given station, there is a very high likelihood that you will probably come across talk radio of the Christian variety. Um, and it is so incredibly interesting to listen to, because it's so, like, this is all some of these people listen to out in the middle of nowhere. Like, there's a stretch when you're driving through Kansas where there's not even a gas station. That is how empty it is. And some of these people are so incredibly isolated. This is all they have. This is all they're listening to.
And it's like War of the Worlds. Just
Yeah.
listening to that, it's just like, oh, if the all hell's breaking loose out in the streets, blah 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 blah. The demons, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's just more scare tactics. It's
Yeah.
Christian talk radio is just another wild and crazy thing all in its own.
But it really dominates the airwaves a lot of the time, unfortunately,
Yeah, yeah,
and
no,
when they should
that's
be
all you
listening
have,
to the Liberation Hour. But anyway,
right?
uh, these
Read a
people
book,
read a book, people,
read more.
but read Marx. But these people, for some of them, like I said, this is all that they are exposed to, and a lot of them, this is all their children are exposed to. And
Mm-hmm.
so they are able to buy into this delusion of there's a war going on in Minneapolis, for example. Like a lot of people, a lot of like these very remote people in these extremely rural areas with not a ton of contact to the outside world beyond their little bubble of people. I mean, hell, even my own grandparents live in a relatively urban area. They just live on a hill, kind of away from other people. Like they just live on their like they're not isolated like that. But even just living away from the general population in the way that they do, um and not like, again, it's not at all very removed from like the urban areas that they are still able to access, but just that isolation of and this can happen to really anybody, even in the suburbs and stuff, that isolation of their bubble, You know, they truly believe that like Chicago, you walk down the street and you will get fucking shot. Like when I told my grandma that I was thinking about going to University of Illinois Chicago for my rest of my undergrad, she was like, "Oh no, please don't go there. You know, it's so dangerous.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so dangerous. You know, there's so many murders, you know." Is this actually true? No. Crime has been in descent. You know, like crime has not like crime has been why is the word escaping me? Crime has been
Reduced.
reduced, yes, a lot. You know, it's not at the numbers it used to be at the peak of gun violence, and it wasn't actually because of the factors that they think it was. It was for completely different reasons, but of course, these people are incredibly racist. And that's just a dog whistle. Oh, Chicago is super dangerous. They're saying that because of the large black population that lives in Chicago, that's why it's dangerous.
Mhm.
That's the quiet part that they're not willing to say because they know that they're going to get in trouble for it. So they say things like, "Oh, you can't go there. You know, there's so much gun violence."
Yeah, yeah.
You know, or they play a lot of loud music on that street. You know, like
They It is. It's just it's a weird culture that we shouldn't mix. I mean, they try to not be racist about it, but still very much are. Like, oh, that's ghetto. We don't need to expose ourselves to that ghetto demonic jungle stuff. Like it's yeah, they can
yeah.
be sweet and not racist about it, but still it's very quite racist.
And it's like, and none of them are going to say anything about the fact that Trump just recently tweeted a literal AI generated picture of the Obamas as apes.
No, they don't care about that.
What?
That's all part of the Seven Mountain Mandate.
What is the Seven Mountain
Uh,
Mandate?
All right, so the Seven Mountain Mandate, uh, that's strategy. Well, not really a strategy, but it's a prophetic blueprint for Christians to take dominion over society. It's through these seven mountains or spheres of influence. Uh, Media being one of them. So that's where the talk radio and all that stuff comes in, and like the brainwashing and arts and entertainment. Uh, So religion, family, education, government, media, arts and entertainment, and business. And must conquer these domains because just they're run by demonic, secular human forces, and we need to take control to establish God's kingdom on earth. And yeah, so it's with the media and all that stuff, it comes very heavily into the Seven Mountain Mandate with post millennial dominionism.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, you know, it's constructing these narratives. You know, you can see it, especially, you know, I work in the industry of taking care of old people, a lot of which watch Fox News. They eat
Mm-hmm.
that up. They love Fox News. Um, and Fox News, if you've ever had to sit through a segment of, what's his name, Jesse Waters? Is
Oh,
that
I
his name?
can't stand that guy.
Oh, I hate
Oh,
him.
everyone,
Oh my God, he makes me want to like blow my brains out. It's incredible. Or Laura Ingraham, you know, the Ingram angle. You know, if you've ever
God,
had to
that whole
watch,
bunch.
yeah, no, all of them. But if you've had to listen to them talk, not all of them use Christian nationalist rhetoric. Not all of them, but there is still a certain number of them who do.
Uh-huh.
You know, I like the you know the age of Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson, I don't know. The eight,
Tucker's
yeah,
Tucker's kind of an anomaly because he can do both. He can like code switch. He can do the Christian nationalism thing, but he can also do like the populist left kind of rhetoric thing. And that's what
right.
makes him especially dangerous because he can like play both sides
And he's very
and
good
just
at it because he's a very
deceive.
good communicator. He's
Yeah.
unfortunately a very good communicator. even though he sounds insane
Mm-hmm.
to like any outside person who's talking, who's like listening to him, especially his laugh. I'm sorry, he sounds so
Yeah, once I hear that laugh, I get broken out of his little spell. I'm like,
it's
no,
so
yeah.
it's like,
Whatever you said,
oh
I that negates it.
yeah, it's like, oh, you're actually the Joker. Like
Yeah.
what? That's incredible. Like, yeah, and if you've ever heard them talk, they are it's undertones a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not necessarily saying things like Christ-like or, bring God into your heart or whatever the hell these people say. But there's insinuation, there is innuendo, there is, if you've ever noticed, all of the women on Fox News, almost all of them wear a little cross necklace.
Uh-huh.
Funny story, actually, a little anecdote, to close out the segment soon. We're getting to the end, but I wanted to say this about the cross necklace thing. When I was in high school, I did go through a little like religion phase. I was dating a Catholic guy. He was like my first serious relationship, and we did Easter together. I went to church with him for Easter, and he bought me this silver cross necklace, and I wore it. I wore it for, I want to say, like 6 months ish. I was still trying to feel out how I felt about religion, really, because once again, I was raised secular. I wasn't really raised religious. He was raised extremely Catholic, so very different sides of, very very different opposite ends of society is, in our experience. And I remember, this is just funny. The necklace, the metal material, made me break out around my neckline.
Demon.
David. And I remember I would get ready in the morning and I would look at, I was like, and I don't know what material exactly the necklace was made out of, but I remember seeing that and thinking, that's interesting. That must be some kind of sign. And I promptly stopped wearing it. I remember talking to my mom and being like, what is happening? And she's like, you're having like a reaction or something to it. You need to stop wearing the necklace. Obviously, the metal you're allergic.
Probably lead.
Yeah, most certainly, probably something along those lines, or nickel, even.
Yeah.
But I think back now and I'm like, oh, that was a sign to to leave that one alone. Leave that bed made. Don't try to, deal with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously I'm a materialist. I don't think some kind of entity was giving me a message, but it definitely feels a little on the nose. Um, but
A little
that's
heavy-handed.
a little heavy-handed, yeah. But I do think about that, and I'm like, that was a sign. That was a sign that I needed to not invest any more time into that. I even remember volunteering at Vacation Bible School. That was interesting.
Vacation Bible School.
Scary.
Oh, the memories. Yes.
Scary.
That and church camp. Church camp is fun.
Yeah, church camp. I never did church camp. I did volunteer one summer at Vacation Bible School, and yeah, no, that shit was terrible. I'm glad I experienced it because it actually gave me like a real look into what that experience is. Going back to just being a young kid. Like the concept of being a child growing up in the church. I never had that experience, and so I, was watching these kids basically be like fully indoctrinated into these concepts of like Jesus and hell and Satan and God and heaven and all of these other things, and thinking like, I don't think this is for me. And I promptly broke up with him. So
Yeah, well, saved yourself an eternity from hell.
yeah, I saved myself. But yeah, so closing out this segment, I think this was a very fruitful and interesting conversation on the topic of Christian nationalism, and probably an ongoing one too. I know there's a lot of granular concepts we can get into with just this was, I feel, really an overview of more granular concepts that we can explore in later episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, any closing thoughts from you, John?
be careful out there. Just know that these people are a part of the society, and they're trying to rule society as well. So just we have to be on our guard. Just be principled Marxist-Leninists about the situations that we are faced with, and just keep our heads about us and
Yeah.
keep struggle.
Stay critical.
Yes.
Do your best.
Stay materialist.
Stay materialist. Do not fall into the trap of metaphysics.
No.
That shit is not real. That shit is not real. But yeah.
Capitalism's real, and we need to I guess, exercise that demon right there.
Yeah, we need to put all of our energy forth into smiting capitalism. So,
Yes.
yeah, thank you so much, John, for coming on the show. I'm going to go ahead and hit